Similar to the last video, let's go over and discuss all the rewards for the quests. What are the best strategies with them, when you should pick them, and just how good they are. Keep in mind, this is still very early on in the quest meta and things may change in upcoming patches. If they add any more, I'll make an update video. Oh, and I won't be discussing the quest conditions themselves, there's way too many variations. Yes, half the reason why you pick a certain reward is based on how difficult the quest is. If it applies, I'll mention it. Just because a quest reward sounds amazing, doesn't mean it's worth the trouble to get it. For example, let's begin with one of the rewards that has a more difficult quest. Staff of Origination is known for being one of the more difficult rewards to get due to the quest attached to it. If you get something like Unmask the Culprit but you have to lose 4 or more fights, then it really isn't worth it. When it comes to the quest, you gotta think ahead whether or not that quest is doable. Plan ahead of time. If that quest is going to be completed past turn 9, then consider another quest. Or maybe it's a quest making you play suboptimally and you're going to be buying subpar cards, then don't be greedy and think of the other options. Alright, so let's get back on topic with Staff of Origination. It's a pretty good quest, giving a wide buff to your build and it helps out in various situations. Absolutely great if you want an edge over your opponent in stats, especially if you got Divine Shield or Cleaves or even Terracotta. But it's less effective when Murlocs are in the game due to poison. Pretty alright quest, so the moment you get it, you're probably going to be at tier 4 where you can get some pretty good cards that can use the stats. Overall, I'd say it's best used for buffing demons with their various cards, but it's not bad when you need extra strength for the next fight. You ever want to play Dance and Darrow without actually playing Dance and Darrow? Look no further than Anima Bride. If you can realistically see yourself getting minions with lots of stats like from Blood Gems, then this is great. Bounce off a big minion you buffed up and hope it lands on the Divine Shield or Cleave is the best way to use this reward. This card is pretty dang strong, as long as you can see yourself triggering its effect repeatedly. Something like buying 3 battle cries when your elementals, murlocs, pirates, or even something like dragons is very feasible. Being able to constantly discover a minion of your tier, as if you have multiple Gale Wing hero powers, allows you to be consistent in whatever build you're aiming for. Again, just make sure the condition is something you can complete multiple times. Cooked Book is a great complementary card for builds that purchase a lot of minions. So builds like pirates, elementals, and sometimes murlocs. It's a good way to end your turn by purchasing a really big minion. Since it continues to scale infinitely, you can realistically end the game by purchasing one gigantic minion. Other heroes that can use high stats for scaling for their benefit like Vol'jin and Mutinous really like this card too. I would only pick this if elementals and or demons are in my lobby. They have cards that can really make this reward into one of the best. Ideally, you want these minions to be ones that can best utilize the stats. Leftmost is someone with Cleave or Wind Fury, while the rightmost is either a minion you want to protect, a strong taunt, or a card like Impulsive Trickster. Evil Twin is great if you feel like you're most likely going to work towards a build that focuses on big stats. You can determine this by seeing what tribes are in the game. Generally speaking, most of the tribes aside from mechs has builds that focus on making multiple big stat minions. And since this is an extra minion, it's great for builds where you leave one slot open for stuff like battle cries or anything that triggers special effects. Something you usually see on Caligos Dragons or Thisanagas. It's especially strong if you plan to create one gigantic minion like you would in Major Domo Elementals or Critter Wrangler Nagas. Ideally, you want to copy something with Cleave, Wind Fury, Death Rattle, or Divine Shield. It will save you the trouble of trying to scale another minion, so instead of being a 1 minion Andy, you can be a 2 minion Andy. Normally this card gives you a win condition to look forward to. Chagra, Major Domo, Famished Felbat, Lightfang, Razorgore, Bannerbore, Young Murk-Eye are some of the few cards you can get. Chagra, Felbat, and Lightfang are the best, but you also have to consider the likeliness of getting the other end of turn card effects. Felbat you don't have to worry about. Chagra you want to pre-plan getting other Quillbores or fighting Agamagam, and you do want to get a second Chagra. Lightfang is generally strong, you can easily get top 4 with a Menagerie build. The rest are a bit lacking as a reward, but if they lead you to finding the other end of turn effects or another win condition, then you can have it work out. I wouldn't really want to pick this quest unless they either buff the stats in the future or you have a build that is full of Divine Shields. Dragons, Quillbores, mechs, and elementals with their Divine Shields could really use this card to great effect. But it usually isn't enough. It won't win you the game, but it's decent support if you have a Menagerie build you think you can work towards. Mirror Shield is good in multiple occasions. It makes one of the minions on Bob's shop great for combat with the added stats and Divine Shield, so it can help out in tempo. If you have Murlocs in the lobby, you can get a full board of Poison Divine Shield minions. And if you can triple a unit, with even one of those copies getting Mirror Shield, then you will have a permanently Divine Shield minion. Unfortunately, things might not go your way and the buff could land on a unit that really does not want the buff. While it can be inconsistent at times, when you get it to work, it's really difficult to oppose. Pilfered Lamps is incredibly strong, but also one of the more difficult rewards to get. But the moment you get it, you'll get non-stop golden minions. By the time you're at tier 5 or 6, expect to triple a lot of tier 6 minions. If you can manage to survive until then, you're going to have a huge edge over your opponents. The major downside, besides the quest itself, is that certain cards don't want to be golden. Stuff like Leroy or Nadina. So while that's terrible, you do make up for it with the huge amount of stats gained from getting the golden cards. Red Hand is generally strong in most occasions. It's great if you're holding onto a pair of cards that you want in the endgame so you can triple in the future, or just a card you want to get ready for upcoming turns that will use the stats to great effect. You do have to always have one card in your hand, so that's a bit awkward, but if you can get past that, Red Hand will serve you well. Ritual Dagger is generally great for two tribes, when you're Death Rattle Beast or you're mechs and you have Replicating Menace on most of your units. Death Rattle Beast is a given, it gives stats to Death Rattle minions that you will have throughout the game. Very strong in the mid game, but also helps out in the late game just a little bit. For mechs, it becomes your new way to scale. Giving Replicating Menace to cards like Deflectobot or Holy Mackerel means you scale your minions without needing Iron Sensei or Greasebot. It's not particularly bad in Soul Juggler Demon comp since you will have Death Rattle Demons, but it's stats that you can normally get from just getting Felbat. Obviously good for heroes that can discover like Galewing or Cookie, extra powerful if you got Brand Bronzebeard and you can get Primal Fin Lookout or Reef Explorer, and that's really it. Orgazoro is an option, but he's hard to obtain, and while he can be a big difference maker, it's not really a card that one would have in mind to be the reason why you choose this reward. So consider all of these before choosing Secret Sinstone. The best Battlecry cards in the game are Elementals, Murlocs, and Pirates due to either obtaining more cards or increasing their stats. Keep this in mind if you consider this reward. It's not a reward that is flexible as it's asking for certain cards to work with it, but like some of the aforementioned rewards, if you can get it to work right, you can find yourself ahead of your opponents. You have to think about what minions do best in combat when they're golden. To save you the trouble, I'll list them down out here. So that's a very long list, but let's think about what's best. Baron Rivendare is the strongest by far to have in the far right. That means Omega Buster, Goldrin, Monstrous Macaw are the best options on the far left. Stolen Gold makes these type of builds more easier to accomplish and enhances your build further to be near unstoppable. The other cards I mentioned aren't the worst ideas either, but they don't bring out the most potential compared to the Death Rattle Baron builds. But don't let that stop you from abusing a free Golden Dazzling Lightspawn or Impatient Doomsayer. If it lets you win the game, then go for it. Realistically, I can only see this being amazing if you're going for a demon build. With the various demon cards that let you consume Bob's shop, this is perfect to help you gain up those stats. Otherwise, it's fairly mediocre. It's not the worst, but it wouldn't be my first choice to pick. You can think of this reward as either 2 gold most of the time or potential triples. It's not necessarily a good idea to even do the same tribe that the reward is choosing. Again, like most rewards, you have to think ahead on if this card will help out in the future or not. It's not the most exciting reward nor the strongest, but it's a decent pick if your other choices are really not going to help you out. Probably the most underrated reward in the game. Not only is this reward going to help you trade better with minions, but your Death Rattle minions become even stronger. The attack adds up, and if you got a board full of Death Rattle minions like Rat Pack or Gas Coiler, you have a much better chance to take down bigger minions. Seriously, pick this reward when you think you're going to be putting out a lot of tokens, and you will not be disappointed. You're going to be surprised at how well you're going to be doing. Even if you don't think you're going to have a lot of Death Rattle tokens, it's still going to be helpful in the mid game. Theotar's Parasol is either a protector for minions you don't want to get sniped, such as Baron Rivendare, Mama Bear, Soul Juggler, or Avenge, or absolutely obnoxious due to the stealth mechanic, and acts as a form of cleanup for cards like Baby Crush or a second cleave. Even having your biggest minion last isn't a bad idea, as it dodges poisons and Leroys until the very end of the fight. Pretty strong reward, you just need to make sure you know how to use the stealth in the best way possible. Pretty good tempo, but only really good in the early to mid game. Obviously this card is amazing with certain tier 3 cards and lower, such as Divine Shield cards and Impulsive Trickster. Those amount of stats will build up over time, but otherwise it's a tad bit on the weaker side. Not many builds require you to have lower tier minions, so while it's nice, unless you get it early on and let it build on the aforementioned cards, it's not a big game changer for your builds. Victim Spector is pretty decent. If you can plan out which cards will be destroyed last, then it is a pretty insane card. Of course, that requires you to understand how the RNG will go in your next fights. Putting your minion last isn't always the best idea, especially if you're actually ahead of your opponents. Perhaps second to last is best, or maybe even a bit higher if you feel like none of your minions are going to die. I would also try my best not to have any of my Death Rattle minion tokens die, since they're practically just worth 1 gold. Tripling them is going to be quite difficult. So from what I can gather, this is what Wondrous Wisdomball can do. It's very versatile in what it can give you, but it doesn't make it consistent. Not every build is going to enjoy the possibilities it can bring out. However, when it does hit, you will skyrocket in strength. The amount of times it can win you the game surpasses all the misses it may bring. But essentially, this reward costs more gold than the others. You have to refresh and buy minions, so keep that in mind if you're okay with this reward. Remember, it's random in what it gives you, so it could be useless at times. As a reminder, these are what the wheel does. Generally speaking, it's a bit on the average side. Extra triggers on hero powers can be pointless depending on your hero. Shuffling the stats isn't normally a good thing. Consuming Bob's shop can be pretty bad if you're freezing for something. Stealing Bob's tavern is normally free gold. And pyro buff generally misses most of the time. That's not to say that all these bad occurrences will happen, but due to the inconsistency of this reward, it's something you really need to be aware of. And that's all of it? Oh wait, there's one more. Partner in Crime is an incredibly rare reward. You got a 1 in 100 chance to find this, and you need the following conditions. Now, just how good is this reward? It really depends on who your hero is. Silence or Cookie would really love this. Jandis or Hooktus though, not really that much. Think hard if you really want this reward. While other players are going to get stats or value, you're getting an extra minion that may or may not really benefit you that much. Unfortunately, you do need to look up what buddy your hero has and assess to yourself if it's really worth it. Alright, that's all the rewards. I hope this all helps you out. Thank you all for watching. Please give the video a like and subscribe to my channel. If you're interested in coaching, just for $12 an hour, I can coach you on anything you need to know about Battlegrounds through Medify and WeCoach. And also, if you like my videos, please consider donating to my Ko-fi so I can keep making them. See you all next time, and I hope to see you all climb.